Tonight, you will probably do something an emperor never managed to do in an entire lifetime. You will flip a switch and light will fill the room instantly. You will turn a handle and clean, drinkable water will pour out on demand. You will swallow a small pill and a headache that would have haunted a monarch for days will disappear in under an hour. None of this feels remarkable to you. But the real answer is much stranger than it sounds. By almost every measurable standard, an ordinary person alive today lives more comfortably, more safely, and more healthily than the most powerful rulers in human history ever did. Picture an emperor at the height of his power. Marble palace, servants at every door, gold on the walls, armies waiting for his command. It looks like the definition of a good life. But strip away the gold and look at what that life actually contained day to day. No antibiotics, no anesthesia, no refrigeration, no painkillers stronger than herbs and wine. If that emperor developed appendicitis, there was no surgery that could save him. A single infected cut could end his life within a week. Compare that to an ordinary person today walking into a pharmacy for a $5 bottle of antibiotics, and the gap becomes impossible to ignore. Why does this comparison matter? Because power and wealth throughout most of history bought status, but they rarely bought biology. Economist Angus Deaton, who won the Nobel Prize for his research on health, well-being, and inequality, spent decades tracking how life expectancy and living standards have changed over the centuries. His research shows that for most of human history, even the wealthiest people faced infant mortality rates, disease exposure, and life expectancies that would be considered a humanitarian crisis today. An emperor's own children were not exempt from this. Royal families lost infants constantly, not because they lacked resources, but because the resources that mattered most, sterile medicine, vaccines, understanding of germs, simply did not exist yet for anyone, regardless of rank. Now think about something as basic as a toothache. Today, an average person can walk into a dentist's office and have a cavity fixed painlessly in under an hour. An emperor with the exact same toothache had two options: suffer through it, or have it pulled out with crude tools and no anesthesia beyond alcohol or opium. Wealth could buy a better blacksmith to make a sharper tool. It could not buy the absence of pain. Consider temperature. In summer, an emperor sweated through silk robes in a stone palace with no way to cool the air beyond fans operated by servants. In winter, he burned wood or coal in open fires that filled rooms with smoke and still left corners of the palace freezing. An ordinary apartment today has a thermostat. One press of a button, and the temperature of an entire home adjusts within minutes. No servant, no fire, no smoke. Just consistent, controllable comfort that an emperor could not have purchased at any price because the technology to create it had not been invented yet. Food tells a similar story. An emperor's feast might have included dozens of dishes, but it also carried enormous risk. Without refrigeration, meat spoiled quickly, and food poisoning was a constant threat, even to royalty. Fresh fruit was often seasonal and regional, meaning an emperor in a cold climate might go months without tasting citrus. Compare that to an average grocery store today, where bananas from thousands of miles away, out-of-season berries, and safely refrigerated meat sit side by side, available any day of the year. Checked by food safety systems the emperor's entire kingdom could not have matched. Then there is travel. An emperor crossing his own empire might spend weeks or months on a single journey, exposed to weather, disease, and the constant risk of accidents on unpredictable roads. Today, an ordinary person can cross that same distance in hours, seated comfortably, climate-controlled, with a level of predictability and safety that would have seemed like fiction to any ruler in history. Information moved just as slowly. An emperor waiting for news from a distant province might wait weeks for a single messenger to arrive, and that messenger might be wrong, or might never arrive at all. Historian and psychologist Steven Pinker, who has written extensively on long-term trends in human progress, has pointed out that the speed and reliability of information access today has no equivalent in any previous era of human history, regardless of a person's rank or wealth. An ordinary person today can learn about an event on the other side of the planet within seconds of it happening. An emperor, with all his armies and gold, had no way to do that at all. What about safety from violence? It is tempting to assume an emperor, surrounded by guards, was the safest person alive. Historically, the opposite was often true. Many emperors and monarchs throughout history were overthrown, assassinated, or killed in the very palaces built to protect them. Power made a ruler a target in a way an ordinary citizen rarely became. Meanwhile, researcher Hans Rosling, known for his data-driven work on global living standards, documented how violent death rates across most of the modern world have fallen dramatically compared to almost any earlier century, even accounting for modern conflicts. An average person today, statistically, is far less likely to die from violence than a ruler once was. There is also the matter of daily discomfort, the kind too small to appear in any history book, but large enough to define an entire life. An emperor still had to deal with insects, since no window in his palace had a screen. He still dealt with the smell of open sewage in most cities, since modern plumbing did not exist. He still lit rooms with fire that produced smoke, and he still bathed in water someone else had to heat and carry by hand. None of these problems disappeared because of his title. Many were universal, faced by everyone in his era, regardless of how much gold lined the walls around them. So how did this shift happen? Not through royal decree, but through the slow accumulation of ordinary innovation. Germ theory, refrigeration, electricity, plumbing, vaccines, anesthesia, and mass production. These changes were not built for emperors. They were built by engineers, doctors, and inventors, and once built, they spread outward to nearly everyone. That spread is the real story here. A single innovation like antibiotics did not just help the wealthy. It helped almost everyone who could reach a pharmacy, a group far larger than any royal court in history. This does not mean modern life has solved everything. Inequality still exists. Access to comfort and healthcare still varies enormously depending on where a person lives. But even accounting for that, the baseline of ordinary life today, clean water, refrigerated food, painless dentistry, instant light, safe travel, and modern medicine, sits far above what even the most powerful person on earth could access a few centuries ago. Think about that the next time something small annoys you. A slow internet connection, a long line at a store, a minor inconvenience in an otherwise ordinary day. An emperor, with every resource his empire could provide, never had the option to feel that specific kind of frustration, because the technology behind it did not exist for him to be frustrated by. His problems were bigger, more permanent, and far more dangerous. So tonight, when you flip that switch and light fills the room without a second thought, remember what that simple action actually represents. It is not a small convenience. It is a piece of comfort and safety that no emperor in human history, with all his gold, his armies, and his palace walls, ever managed to hold in his hands.